Hello, everybody, and welcome back to OMB Reviews. I am the critic who is a cynic. How is everyone doing this evening? Happy and blessed Monday, and welcome to episode 581 of the Welcome to Asgard podcast, where tonight we're going to talk about how anime has just taken over the box office, at least this past weekend, and several weekends, it seems, at least, over the last year or even last several years. It seems that every few months or so, we're talking about a non-Hollywood system movie making a splash, doing really, really well. Animes, especially, tend to, or at the very least, are tending to be doing much better than they have done previously in the North American marketplace, in addition to also, in some cases, doing really, really well globally. Of course, we have this past weekend the situation of Chainsaw Man. I was going to say Machine Gun Man, but Chainsaw Man, the movie, making the highest amount domestically, the number one spot domestically, and having already made almost $100+ million globally. Since it launched. It has, of course, been out in international markets a little bit longer than it has been domestically. But hey, the fact that we're talking about Chainsaw Man, the fact that we've talked about Demon Slayer, the fact that we have talked about these other IPs, right? These non-Western IPs, these anime-based, manga-based properties, I think is speaking to something that, of course, Hollywood has learned all too much, all too well, most recently, more so than any other time, which is that they are clearly in and on the decline. When you just compare how massive IPs, major brands, major studios are pumping out hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars to get nothing back on those returns in many cases, especially from some of the biggest names out there, and also and including in the animated sphere as well. It is, I think, worth noting when these animes come in, when these Japanese and Korean-based films start to take over these different marketplaces, right? We obviously have the theatrical conversation going on here, but you could also extend this out as well to properties like K-pop Demon Hunters and other properties, right? Obviously, we all know, right, when it comes to the Asian market, the Japanese anime and mangas have been killing it in many regards, right? Mangas have been destroying comics in many different ways, both in creativity and in sales. And then you look at the animes and you see how much better the anime shows are and how many more people today, especially in the Western world, are now fans of these animes, catching up with these animes as well. What's one of the biggest shows that came out on Netflix over the last couple of years? It was a live action adaptation of an anime in One Piece. So there seem to be a lot of pieces to the puzzle of this, not really resurgence, but this birth of this genre as far as it being a player in the Western market. Now, again, we're not talking about massive numbers domestically. $18 million domestic open is nothing really to write home about in comparison to the history of films at the North American box office. But for where animes were to where animes are, to the point where, at least when it comes to a property like Chainsaw Man, who, again, a property I had no knowledge of, I had no prior knowledge of in any way, as I am not an anime fan myself, the fact that it was still able to take the number one spot relatively easily from every other film that got released this weekend, and also the holdovers from previous weekends, some of which were for some pretty massive brands, some pretty massive studios, I definitely do think it says quite a bit about the current state of things. So we'll talk about that. We'll also talk about Halloween. We are, of course, in the week of Halloween, All Hallows Eve this Friday, All Saints Day this Saturday, and All Souls Day this Sunday. We call it Hallowtide, right? The 3 holy days where we commemorate the dead, where we, again, remind ourselves of those that we have lost. We pray for them. We pray for the souls of purgatory. We pray also for the saints' intercession in heaven. And we remember our dead. So very important time right now. And I figured it would be important for us to go over some Halloween facts, as there's a lot of misconceptions out there. There's a lot of lies and propaganda out there that try to turn it into some pagan thing, when the reality is that Halloween at its roots is Catholic, is Christian. and interesting history to how that story, which had been known for centuries, got skewed into a lot of the nonsense you hear now from those that criticize Halloween, but also, too, from the mainstream side of things, where the commercialization of Halloween has tried to strip away any of the original Christian elements and replace them instead with the worldly and the demonic. So, again, I think a conversation worth having today, as the box office news is quite slow, and it's a topic that interests me quite a bit. So before getting further, though, please make sure you smash that like button. Make sure you smash the rumble button as well. We are live over on X today as well. I made sure to double check that the chat was on. So if you are watching over on X, please make yourself known. About 20 people watching right now. Again, slow box office weekend. Not really all that surprised to see some lower numbers here. But for those that are here, I do appreciate y'all hanging out today. So let us go ahead and say hello to some people who are in the chat today. Let's see, there were some people who were here early. So first, Gary of the Banjo Sandwich, Mr. Banjo Sandwich, saying, welcome to Dairy is Freaky. So I believe that, was it the prequel series from It? Or it's like a spin-off from It? I've not seen it myself. Snortapoopus Cuber, hello, humans and other quitters. What's going on, Snortapoopus? He then says, hello to me. Hello to you, Snortapoopus. Always great to have you here. We had Justin C. I don't know why YouTube made that change where it started putting people's usernames in there for some reason. Luckily, it's still pretty visible to me who you are. So Justin C. saying, evening, sir, in chat. Looks like another slow weekend at the box office. Grim time for theaters, sadly. Yeah, even though this is a good time for anime, it's a good time for specifically anime in the Western world. Doing much better than has been seen previously, even for lesser known titles like Chainsaw Man. And again, I speak to that as someone who is not an anime connoisseur. And so to someone on the outside, again, I hear something like Chainsaw Man, and I think, who? What? So I think that, again, the fact that it's getting into the number one spot here domestically, despite the fact that it's not as well known of an IP here in the States, is a testament to how well that film actually did. But even so, as you just mentioned, right, it is something that still has to be stated that this is still not good box office overall for all films, right? It's good for anime, it's good for Chainsaw Man, obviously, but for films in general, yeah, it's no bueno. The fact that you have on Halloween, the biggest film coming out on Halloween is the re-release of Back to the Future. You have Halloween on a Friday this year. How Hollywood did not think that they could potentially capitalize on that by having some major Halloween and major horror film showing up on that night, to me, is just, one, a missed opportunity, but two, it's a reminder of just how broken they are, that they can't even get that going forward. I mean, again, they have movies that have come out over the course of the month of October that I guess you could say are part of the, quote, spooky season. But it's not common you get a Friday Halloween where you can actually take advantage of that release. Instead, we have a wider release of a film called Begonia, which is by that same director that has made, in my opinion, pretty awful movies, if memory serves me right. Let me see if I can pull that up real quick. So not the same one I was thinking of, but yeah, Yorgos Lanthimos. So not the one that I was thinking of, but he has made some pretty weird movies. So he's made some good films like The Lobster, which I actually quite enjoyed. I never got to see The Killing of a Sacred Deer, but I heard good things about it. He then made The Favorite, which, in my opinion, was vastly overrated and was really pushing a lot of agenda things that were just ridiculous. He then made that disgusting film Poor Things, when Emma Stone played a character who had the mind of a child and had relations with others. Remember that creepy thing? It's that guy. So yeah, let me just say, I'm not really keen to see any of his nonsense. Despite the fact that the cast being Emma Stone, Jesse Plemons. I like Jesse Plemons quite a bit. Not really having a desire to see that, though. That's the only other thing. That's actually something currently in limited release that's getting a wide release this weekend. So again, your Halloween releases are Back to the Future re-release, which is awesome. One of my favorite films of all time. And then an expansion of a Focus Features film from the same guy that did that disgusting Emma Stone Frankenstein ripoff called Begonia, whatever. It's slow. And, obviously the week after that, you've got Predator Badlands. I don't think that film's going to do all that much box office-wise. And you really just don't have anything massive until November 21st, when you get Wicked for Good, which is going to have a really good weekend. It's going to have a pretty good run. The same audience that showed up for the first film are probably going to show up to this film. You might even see a bit of an expansion as well for anyone who was waiting for the second film to be out so they could just, watch it all. And then after that, you get Zootopia 2, which is, in my opinion, going to be the next big release. Because Wicked for Good, I think, is going to do well over $500 million globally. Zootopia 2, I think, has the potential to get to $1 billion. And then once that comes out, really Wicked for Good, once that film comes out, then you just got weekend after weekend after weekend of pretty big releases, including Kill Bill, the whole bloody affair, interestingly enough. I don't know why I did not even think that the film was even coming out. It's listed. Quentin Tarantino listed as a director. Is that just like a special re-release of it? My guess? I don't know. But off to the races once Wicked for Good comes out. Let's see. Jeremy Zakowski, evening Odin, everyone here. It seems Japanese anime is eating Hollywood's lunch. Yeah, I mean, obviously, there are people who are going to try to argue, well, the box office really isn't all that big. $18 million opening weekend, that's nothing to be impressed about. But then you have to remember where anime was even just a few years ago. And how, especially since COVID time, how it's been able to really break into the Western space. I think the best example of that is probably Demon Slayer. Because I remember when in the early 2020s, you had Demon Slayer, it was Mugen Train that was released. And I remember tracking that movie and saying, whoa, this film's doing a lot for an anime. Like, what's going on here? I've never heard of this. And then that's when, of course, everyone and their mom who's an anime fan has to come in and say, oh, it's a huge thing and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, okay, I'll take your word for it. It's not big in the Western world, but hey, the fact that it's making a splash here is impressive. That film and that franchise has been able to do better and better, it seems, in our part of the world. So now that you have other films that are not nearly as well-known IP-wise, now getting a number one spot, even though it's a low weekend, even though it's not a good, impressive weekend, the theaters are going to be hurting quite a bit this weekend, as they just did, right? As they have been for several weekends now. But two things can be true at once. It could be a good weekend for Chainsaw Man, and it could also be a really bad weekend for the theaters at large. JS Pena tagging to say, ahoy, ahoy to you, JS Pena. Welcome back, good sir. Always glad to have you here. Again, I did a test on X earlier for anyone who's watching over there. Keely Chow saying hello to the people. Then saying, hail Odin, how are you? Thor, Freya, and Baby Sif doing? Also, how was your weekend? Weekend was fine. It's been very rainy the last day or so. And everyone is doing okay otherwise. So thank you for asking. We got Mr. Roy. Hello. What's going on, Mr. Roy? Glad to see you here, as always. We got the Morak, who is a member here on the channel. Mr. Roy is also a member and is a Chosen of Valhalla, one of the few Chosen of Valhalla members still out there. The Morak, who is a member, saying, howdy, Odin. What's going on, Morak? We got Shorty Short Laura, the Mother Major General story, saying, hello there, Laura. Thank you for being here. Great to have you back. Forever Sci-Fi is a member, saying, I think I've mostly been spending my time on YouTube and Crunchyroll the last few years. Yeah, I mean, obviously YouTube is massive. The thousands and thousands of hours being uploaded to YouTube at any given moment means there's more than enough content. You can find almost anything that you have a desire to see on YouTube. And hey, with the dawning of AI, eventually there will be nothing that you cannot be able to find on YouTube or elsewhere. It's kind of scary to think about. King and Rumsky, hanging out over on the Green Machine. What's going on, King and Rumsky? When was the last time you went to a movie? It has been a while since I have actually gone to a theatrical release. To be honest, off the top of my head, it's been so long, I can't even remember. Because oftentimes when the movies are released, the showtimes just never work out with my... One, they don't work out with my kids' bedtimes. And two, if they do, they're not films that I really have any desire to go out of my way to go and see either. So I'm gonna have to see if I can pull up my Criticlist account real quick and see if I can figure out the last time I was actually physically in a movie theater. Because let's see, I didn't see that one in a theater. I didn't see that one in a theater. I don't think I saw that one in a theater either. I didn't see that one in a theater. I don't believe I saw that one in a theater. Oh, man. It could have actually been, it might have been since June with F1. I think I saw F1 in theaters. It's been a long time. I didn't even realize it had been that long, but that's how much Hollywood has really just helped me to shut out. Obviously, I've seen a lot of films since, not at the movie theater. Yeah, things are bad. Let's see. Sahil. What's going on, Sahil? Saying, I was looking forward to the Passion sequel, but heard that Jim Caviezel is no longer in the movie and they cast a new actor to portray Jesus. Still, we'll see it, but I really like Jim. Yeah, so basically the news on that is the original plan that Mel Gibson had was to go forward with the resurrection with Jim Caviezel attached. So they were fully planning that, and they had, I think, they had even started filming with Jim Caviezel. But in the process that they were going to use, which was to use de-aging effects, because obviously Jim Caviezel, he looks great, by the way, for his age. He looks great even when you compare him back to when he looked like in The Passion. He's still in great shape. Clearly, though, on film, in makeup and costume, there must have been enough of a difference that Mel Gibson said, okay, we're going to need to do some post on this. We're going to need to do some CGI. We're going to need to do some deep faking, essentially, to try to, make the consistent image there. And the process by which they were going to do that, either one, wasn't as effective as they thought it was going to be, or two, was very expensive and was likely not going to be worth the expense just to keep on Jim Caviezel. And again, it makes sense, right? In the first film, Jesus has to give such a performance where you really can't use CG, you really can't use deepfake technology, because to convey that emotion, that raw emotion of an actual scourging and an actual crucifixion, you needed a real actor, you needed a real face, you needed humanity to be shown with no filter in between. With the sequel, you don't really need that as much, because you're now portraying the resurrected Christ, so you're now portraying a resurrected body, which by its nature means you can play around with that image a bit, because you can then make the argument that for artistic reasons, that is why certain things are different or are new, right, as far as the look. So I think that they could have made that work. But again, Mel Gibson was the one that made the first Passion film. He's a very talented filmmaker. He obviously is not perfect, but he knows what he's doing. And so I would not be surprised if Mel Gibson had a very long conversation with Jim Caviezel, talked about what was going on, and then I would not be surprised if it actually ended up being like Jim Caviezel's call in a way, where I wouldn't be surprised if Mel Gibson said, look, I really want to have you on. I really want to make this work, but it's really going to cause, XYZ issues and XYZ spending. And though it's totally worth doing it for you and because of your attachment to this project, I wanted to get your input. And I wouldn't be surprised if maybe Jim Caviezel had maybe given a hey, it's okay. And he also, I imagine he's going to stay on too, like as a producer, as acting coach, or just I would not be surprised if he's still involved in the project in some way. So I'm not really all that concerned with the recasting, because even with the new actor, it fits that same narrative as before, right? Of, it's now the resurrected Jesus, and so now there's the glorified body, the glorified state. So having a slight variation actually can make sense, can work with it. The bigger issue for me, though, Sahil, and there's also controversy over this, is that he's also been recasting every other role too. And that makes me sad, because there are some actors I would have really have liked to have seen come back. I would have loved the actor that played Peter. Now, obviously, it's been a long time. It's been, 20 years since the first film came out. So there's obviously a lot of aging that has gone on. So you can't have the same person come back to play some of these characters. But in the case of Mary Magdalene, they apparently have cast an actress that is a vocal advocate for abortion. Now, that to me, that is a non-negotiable. That to me is disqualifying. Because if you're going to be an actress and you're going to be portraying the Blessed Mother, there's a certain standard of morality that I think that you should fit. And if you're not even going to be able to defend in your own public life the innocence of the unborn, I don't think that you should be playing Mary. I think that mistake, that's the bigger mistake. And that one's Mary Magdalene, not Mary the Mother of Jesus, but still, whether it be Mary Mother of Jesus or Mary Magdalene, both of those are such key figures, especially key female figures in the early church, in the history of salvation history, that you need to have actors that, at the very least, bare minimum, support human life. So that, I think, is the bigger issue. The Jim Caviezel one, I think it'll be fine. I think it'll work. I would not be surprised if Jim Caviezel was still involved in some way. That other one, though, I don't see how you square that. All right, Geek264 at 737 saying, I always watch while editing on Monday nights. What is your favorite Halloween nostalgic movie? Oh, well, hey, good luck with your editing. I would not be able to do two things at once like that, at least. All right, so favorite Halloween nostalgic movie. So, oh man, I mean, nostalgia works in so many different ways. Obviously, I love the old school Halloween, slasher movies, of course. I am a big fan of, I wouldn't say that this is nostalgic necessarily, but it's one that has become kind of like a cult classic in the Halloween space. I've always liked Trick or Treat. Has a lot going for it as well. It's been a while since I've seen it, but that's one that's always up there. If I'm going to go old school, though, like from when I was growing up, because I think that's where you're probably asking from, we actually just watched one of them. We just watched one of them the other day, over the weekend, actually. First time my kids, my 5-year-old and my 2-year-old had actually seen it. My poor 2-year-old, she got scared a little bit because the beginning is a little scary, but it's a Disney Channel original movie called Under Wraps from like 1997. It's not on Disney Plus. Now, what is on Disney Plus is they apparently did a remake, a modern remake, and it's modern. Let me tell you that. You just saw the poster for it, and you're like, oh, okay. Yeah, this is not what I grew up with. So they did like a modern remake, and then there's also the Under Wraps sequel, which I don't know when that one came out, but those are on there. But the original Under Wraps, not there. So luckily, the internet exists, and so it was not hard to find a copy of the original Under Wraps, and so that's what we watched. And my son liked it. My son was a big fan. The way I sold him on it, too, in the beginning, because we were saying, all right, we bought pumpkins. We went to the pumpkin patch over the weekend, so we got some big pumpkins to carve. It was our first family carving, so that was a lot of fun. First time I got to actually, be the dad carving the pumpkin myself. So that was a pretty big moment in my life. And so we were able to do that, and they were able to get some fun pumpkins. They also had some random gourds there too. And so we got these really funky looking gourds. It's really funny. The kids were like, ooh, we like this. And so because we were doing that and we were playing some Halloween music as we were doing it, we figured, oh, let's watch something, quote, spooky, something Halloween-y. And so we started off trying to watch Under Wraps. my poor daughter got scared, so we had to pause it, and luckily my son was okay. Wasn't happy that we had to stop it, but he understood. He's at the age now where he's starting to understand those kinds of things. And so then we ended up putting on the Great Pumpkin, Charlie Brown, which is a classic that we love. And we actually watch that throughout the year sometimes too, but more appropriate even so now. So my daughter did a lot better with that one. And after she went to bed, then that's when we went back to Under Wraps. And boy, oh boy, for me at least, that movie holds up quite a bit. So I love that movie. There's also one that's not necessarily a Halloween film, but it's one of the more horror films. Also a Disney Channel original film, Phantom of the Megaplex. I love that movie too. And those are the ones that come to mind right now. Master of Gaming says, hi. Hello. Master of Gaming, I already talked about that. General Wingster, it's okay, everyone. The third best channel and number one troll has arrived. Hello, General Wingster. Welcome back. He is a member, and he says here, what kind of Jesse Plemons are you? That is the ultimate question. 3 for 1. How is that possibly profitable, Frito-Lay? One of my favorite lines ever. Game night. Jimmy A. Kill Bill, The Whole Bloody Affair is the 2 movies put together since Tarantino considers them one movie. Ah, okay. Now it's starting to come back to me. Okay. Gloria Thomas, welcome. Apparently just completely glossing over the whole point of what I was saying. Says, anime isn't taking over the box office because anime films are hardly released outside of Japan. You kind of missed the point of what I said earlier, so maybe rewind it and listen to it. Dawn of the Dunk. Hail says, hey all. Hey Odin, top 3 John Carpenter films. Oh boy. I mean, you need to have a list. Always need to have a list. But The Thing, obviously, is going to be probably the number 1 film. Let me see if I can get his filmography in front of me, because he's got so many classics. So there's the 1982 The Thing. Of course, there's the original Halloween, Escape from New York. Oh, my goodness. Big Trouble in Little China. Oh, goodness me. Yeah, so I'm going to probably go The Thing, then 1978 Halloween. Ooh, and then probably They Live. I always forget about They Live. And then Escape from New York, obviously, is up there too. Those are like the top films, though, from him that I thoroughly enjoy. That's a good question. General Wingster. In this decade is already 50% done. What happened? That's a great question. The fact that we're almost in 2026 is insane. The fact that 24 years ago was 9/11 is insane. The fact that 20 years ago was Hurricane Katrina is insane. That's even more terrifying, because then that just reminds me of how young I was. General Wingster, Odin, hey guys, hello, how's it going? Dawn of the Dunk, welcome. Hardwick, tag to say, I tried watching The Lobster and couldn't make it all the way through. It was a bunch of pretentious claptrap. Oh, believe me, any criticism you have on The Lobster, I will completely accept. It was one of those things where it was just weird enough for me to be able to enjoy it. It didn't cross the line fully, and I think because of the fact you had Colin Farrell and Rachel Weisz in the film, it made it palatable, and so I enjoyed it for that. It was the right kind of obscure, dark comedy for me. But then everything that he did, like, kind of after that was just, too much. Lady Tharp of Hastings. What's going on, Lady Tharp, who's a member here on the channel? Last thing I saw in theaters was Dune Part 2. Been watching old TV shows and my favorite movies. Hey, that's not a bad way to live. The Morak. The only upcoming movie I'm planning to see in the theater is Project Hail Mary. Okay. Dang. General Wingster, that's a shame. Understandable, but I really like Jim Caviezel. I do too. Ultimately, that's on Mel Gibson. Mel Gibson waited way too long Now, obviously, I'm glad that he waited until he was ready to do the project. I don't think he needed to wait 20 years. I don't think he needed to wait that long. Geek True 64, great channel for if you are a physical media fan. He says, top 3 John Carpenter movies. Number 3, Mouth of Madness or Big Trouble. 2, Escape from New York. And 1, definitely The Thing. Okay. Nice. Jenna Wingster, Odin, I can play Mary. I think I got rage. No. How dare you, Jenna Wingster? You're missing one key criteria. One key criteria. Demstrins, welcome. Saying Monster House. Is that like a recommendation? I've not seen that one myself. Is that the one where it's like the house is the actual monster? That came up on a lot of lists, but is that one actually good? And is it good for like a 5-year-old? A 5-year-old who, when he was like 2, had seen all of the original Star Wars movies and has seen a lot of other things too. Will Riker, what's going on? Welcome back. And if you have a comment or question that you want read aloud, just put @Odin at the very beginning of your comment. @Odin lets me know that you're trying to get my attention. Also, of course, if you are a member here on the channel, you don't have to worry about tagging. The lovely Sherry, what's going on, lovely Sherry? Welcome back. Glad to see you in the chat. JS Pena, so what are you and your family up to for Halloween? We are going trick-or-treating, of course, on Friday. That's why I will not be on Friday Night Lights this week, because as a good dad, I need to take my kids trick-or-treating. That's just standard, right? So we're actually going as Team Rocket. So back when we were, planning Halloween, because with the kids, wife likes to get these things planned out in advance a little bit. So like a couple months ago, we were in like a big Pokemon phase. And so we were watching a lot of that. OG Pokemon, of course. And so when we asked my son, he was very much about being Team Rocket. And so we've stuck to that. The way it's going to work is, of course, I'm James. My wife is going to be Jessie. And then my son, is going to be Meowth. And my daughter is going to be Pikachu. And so the whole concept of we're trying to steal Pikachu. And my wife is making some of the costumes, and she's done a great job so far. Let's see. JS Pena, thank you again for that comment. General Wingster's member saying, you should show your son The Gate, albeit in a couple of years. Great introduction to horror, my opinion. Interesting. Yeah, I kind of like how his introduction to horror, in at least a less formal way, is probably the ones that we've watched so far. Again, under wraps. We also watched Halloween Town last night as well, and he liked that one too. Geek True 64, Jesse Plemons in Game Night is hilarious. I think Game Night was the last great comedy. That to me is a very underrated comedy for sure. I don't think it holds water up against a Tropic Thunder or a film like that, but yeah, it's definitely one of the last really good comedies for sure. So good. The Morak, who is a member, saying the Big Trouble in Little China, The Thing, and They Live would be my top 3 in order. Nice. For sci-fi, The Thing, They Live, and Big Trouble would be my top 3. Yeah, Big Trouble in Little China is a film I need to rewatch, because it's been a while, and I don't think I watched that film with full attention, which is something that you should just not ever do when it comes to a John Carpenter film, especially. EX Voot, what's up, X Voot? Saying, did the bad guys too end up squeaking out profit? That's a good question. Thank you for that. Keely Chow leaving it once again, always leaves early. But anyway, the question was asked, and so I will pull up my handy dandy chart. And since we're already going to be doing a little bit of some numbers here, I think it's important for us to get started on the right foot.
Time to see a real math magician at work.
That's right, everybody. Thank you to EX Voot. It's time for some math and to see a real math magician at work. And so the question was asked, did a film squeak out a little bit of profit? The film in question, of course, was The Bad Guys 2. The answer is it has not. It has not been able to do so. However, that being the case, it did much better than I think anyone was anticipating. So keep this in mind. The first movie had a very similar run, meaning it started off low and then had very strong holds week in, week out. and was able to eke out, I want to say, if memory serves, it got about $250 million, the first film. Now, the way that the second film was tracking, it was not looking like the film was going to get anywhere close to the same box office that the first film did. And yet, look at how close it did. It actually ended around $228.5 million globally. That's about a $16 million loss, and that is something that can very easily be recoverable. Remember that a film like Bad Guys 2 could probably see numbers that could make that up on streaming or on VOD sales, more likely, VOD and any physical media sales. So that's very impressive. As you can see, this column here of 36.73 means that the first 2 weekends account for 36%. Yeah, the first 2 weekends. 36.7% of the entire box office. So whereas a lot of films make like 70% of their entire box office in their first 2 weekends because most films are front-loaded like that, this film only made a little over a third of its entire box office globally in its opening weekend. It was able to leg out times 5.13 times its opening weekend, and based off of 2 weeks, 2.72. So a 5 times multiplier, that is very good. So again, very similar in tracking to that of the first release. Now, the difference is this film cost a little bit more than the first film did, I believe. This film cost $80 million, so a typical marketing cost would put the total cost to about $120 million in total. The initial break even would have been about $240 million. Now, as you can see, the film at $228 million is still obviously quite off the mark there, and even at $240 likely would not have broken even because, remember, the break even is based off of the older standard of 2.5 times the budget as your break even. Most films today are closer to 3 times or more because of how much more money is made internationally today than ever before. And internationally, you get a lot less return on investment if you are a studio. But again, facts are what they are. The film did not eke out any profit. It still ended up as a loss. But keep in mind, after 2 weekends, it was at $83 million. Based off of that, historically, the historical data available, most films tend to make between 50 and 70% of their entire box office in those first 2 weekends. And so taking that into account, the film, if it had been following historical averages, should have only made between 119 and 167 as a max case scenario. And guess what? As we all saw, this film did well over 50%, right? It was only 30% of the entire box office of its entire run. So it should have done a best case of 167. It ended up at 228. So that's a massive win for The Bad Guys 2. Again, not a success financially in theaters. Still a theatrical flop. But that's a small enough amount to where you could definitely see how it could make its money back. For sure. So thank you for that question. Some other updates since we're already here. Regretting You had a slightly higher opening weekend than initially estimated, but not by all that much, right? So $23.6 million is being reported there. And I forget exactly how much the initial amount was, but it cost enough to where it's still $33 million in the red. Black Phone 2 is on pace to break even probably by next weekend. Shelby Oaks from Chris Stuckman is likely looking at some profit as well down the line. Obviously, very low box office, but for the movie that it is, for the budget that it had, very good. It's only had, I think, estimated around a $2 to $3 million budget. Depends on which sources you're looking at. It's made $2.4 million, and so it's on its way to making some profit. So return on investment will probably end up being pretty good for Shelby Oaks, and good luck to Chris Stuckman into the future. Hopefully he gets a better writer from everything that I've heard, at least, about Shelby Oaks. And trying to think of anything else major that we were going to talk about there. That was pretty much it. Chainsaw Man, let's go ahead and bring that up, right? And so as I mentioned, right, anime seems to be taking over. So $18 million was the domestic opening. It's a little higher, I believe, than the initial estimates had for the weekend. And it's made so far $90 million globally. Now, obviously, a lot of that is coming from the Asian markets. This, for some reason, is not including Japan. And this film originally was released in Japan back in September, and so it's made quite a bit of money there. So obviously take the numbers there with a grain of salt. I hate using Box Office Mojo, as you all know. However, based off of the fact that we're not getting seemingly accurate numbers there, I think it's important for us to try to see if we can find anything. So this is reporting a similar number there of $108 million, and it has made so far a reported $43 million in Japan. So at least we've got some numbers there for that. So 43 million in Japan, 16 million in South Korea, 1.6 million in Hong Kong, 346,000 in Vietnam. But this one makes a little bit more sense than the numbers chart, right? So 43 million being reported according to Box Office Mojo. So again, we love to do things live here just to keep things honest. So that's the one number missing from this chart for some reason. It is accounted for in this total, right? As we saw, the same totals are there between the two sites, but for some reason they just don't have the $43 million included for Japan's contribution. South Korea being the next profitable, though, with a reported $19 million there. Now, this is impressive, okay? Let's just go ahead and look at the animes that have been released. And again, we're not talking about Marvel Cinematic Universe level numbers here. That's just true. But we are still talking about numbers that are better than we've seen in recent memory. And the fact that some of these massive IPs, especially in the case of Demon Slayer, is actually growing its audience domestically, I think that this speaks to a very impressive future for anime here in the United States and really across the world as well. So just for some perspective, okay, we obviously have Chainsaw Man. This just got released. Globally, it's made $108 million. Again, for an IP that I've personally never heard of as a non-anime fan, that is impressive for a mostly unknown entity outside of Japan to be making that kind of money here. Demon Slayer, of course, this is a part of a much bigger franchise of films that has had a presence in the domestic marketplace for several years now. Right, the biggest film that got started in the Western market was, I believe, Mugen Train from several years ago. We'll probably see this on the chart there. But that film opened to $70 million domestically. That's insane. That to me is the clear example that anime has broken through. It's not universal yet. It's obviously not to the same extent or at the same levels, but $70 million opening weekend is infinitely better than the vast majority of releases in 2025. You put that opening of $70 million up against most other 2025 releases across the board, and that beats it. That is a better opening weekend than so many other films. And some of them, a lot of them are coming from major studios. Some of them have massive money behind them even. So you take that domestically, $70 million, a total domestic of $132. Obviously, it was a very front-loaded release, but still, $132 million domestically is also, for this year, even better than a significant portion of the films to come out in 2025. And a total global take of around $666 million. Guess what? That movie, Demon Slayer, made more than Superman did. And if Superman is considered a hit by many, that makes Demon Slayer a downright smack it out of the park hit, because the budget for Demon Slayer, whew, even if we don't know what it is exactly, we know animes do not cost nearly as much. We know that Japanese media, especially, does not cost anything close to American-made media. So $666 million. Insane. I remember when this film came out of Haikyuu. So not as massive there, $3.6 to $7 million, but $109 million globally. The Boy and the Heron from Miyazaki, close to $300 million globally. Again, was able to break through a little bit. The First Slam Dunk, globally $281 million. Suzume, one of my favorite animes of recent time, didn't do too much domestically, but again, we have to think about the trends here. Made over $314 million globally. You go to One Piece film Red, made $200+ million globally. Jujutsu Kaisen 0 made $183 million globally. You also have, of course, Demon Slayer Kimetsu. Back in 2021, $512 million globally with a opening weekend of $21 million domestically. Again, a 2021 release in April. This is when COVID was still impacting a lot of things, and yet this film brought out $21 million worth domestically, $50 million in total domestic sales. For inflationary purposes, that's $56 million today, but $512 million globally. So we're talking about films and IPs that have been able to reach over $500 million. Really, you have, of course, films like Your Name. That film made most of its money in Japan. Not much of a presence. Look at how empty a lot of these charts are. Look how empty a lot of these numbers are. Pokemon 2000, you see a higher number here. Pokemon the movie, the first film, you see a higher number there. Yu-Gi-Oh, you see a higher number there. And then you have years where it's just nothing. You've got single digits for Ponyo, one of the great Miyazaki films, right? Unadjusted for inflation, of course. You then got films like Astro Boy, Arrietty. Again, not much. Dragon Ball Z, barely scratched the surface, it seems. A lot of empty space. A lot of Your Name. Again, I love that movie from 2017. Not a lot of numbers there, right? You really don't see much of anything. Dragon Ball Super, obviously, Dragon Ball was able to break through it in a lot of ways. Weathering with You did okay there. It's not until you get to Demon Slayer. That is when things start to shift. 2021, we're in the post-COVID era. And I think that lines up well for good reason. Because what did Hollywood do during COVID? They abandoned the theaters. They abandoned the marketplace. Anime, Japanese cinema decided, hey, we got an opening here. Clearly there was a hunger for that IP as well. So again, $21 million, $50 million total domestic, made over $500 million globally. And look at how that has shifted. Look at how many more numbers there are and how less blank spaces there are in several different animes across the board. So we have absolutely seen a massive shift in the zeitgeist when it comes to how people see and view anime. It's not universal, meaning it's not every film. Not every film are doing these kinds of numbers, but you cannot deny that what started, it seems, back with Demon Slayer in 2021 has not still caught fire. You don't move from 4 years ago, a global take of 512, to a global take of over 666 million unless things are going your way. You don't get an opening domestic weekend, North American weekend of $70 million unless something is going your way. So right now, the sky's the limit. Right now, I'm going to be very interested to see what happens next. Even Chainsaw Man, not nearly to the same level as Demon Slayer, is still doing on the high end of a lot of recent animes. Who knows how much money that film is going to be able to make by the end of its run. So anyway, those are those numbers. Thank you once again, EXVoot, for initiating that question. And that's why I think anime is taking over. By the way, EXVoot, let me go ahead and get your comment up on the screen. If you leave a comment, if you leave a super chat, of course, you'll get some preferential treatment here. So, EXVoot, thank you very much for the $5 super chat, saying, do you think Black Phone 2 will see a smaller drop this week with Halloween? What do you expect the total profit to be? Good question. So, yes, I think any of the horror films this weekend will probably see better holds, because it's a tradition for a lot of people, especially cinemaphiles, to go see movies on Halloween, especially horror films or thrillers on Halloween. That's why, to me, it was a very big mistake for Hollywood to not have a horror film planned for release on Halloween night. I think that would have been a very good idea for them to do something like that. For them to not even have the re-release of some of the classic Halloween films, too. That is also, I think, a missed opportunity. So, as far as the initial question, do I think it's going to see a smaller drop? Yes, I do think it's going to hold well. But keep in mind, and this was something that I was surprised by last weekend, which was that it really did not have a bad drop. The second weekend drop for Black Phone 2 was only 53%. That's not nearly as bad as I thought it was going to be. So it's not making tons of money, but if you compare it to the box office for the first Black Phone, it's still going about head to head. It's still a very, very close race between the two films domestically, at the very least. I'm going to pull my chart up for a second just to confirm that. The inflation chart, for some reason, every time I turn that on for the numbers.com, it crashes. It's the weirdest thing. But unadjusted for inflation, right now, Black Phone 2 has an edge of around 48.9 million to 47.4. Now, only 3 years have been passing, but inflation's enough to where Black Phone 1 probably still has a slight edge. But the fact that it's close, that actually points more so to Black Phone did not lose audience between 1 and 2. If anything, maybe it gained a little bit of a domestic audience at the very least. International is going to be the big question mark. The first film made $71 million. Second film right now is at $31 million, so we could potentially see some changes there. But yeah, so for one, I think that we are going to see a smaller drop-off. We're not surprised to see it in like the 40s range or even less. Like that's a very good drop-off to see. As far as where do I think the profits are going to be, so I think it breaks even by this weekend. I think once the numbers come in for this weekend, it breaks even and gets very close to a global $100 million. I don't know if it crosses it yet, but it could. So long-term profits, let's see, my charting indicates somewhere between $23 and $50 million. Now, that's using an older metric, but I could see it doing north of $20 million in net profit, which again is not going to be as good as the first film, profit margin wise, but still, it's definitely going to be much better than it was looking like. It was not going to be a very good release for that film. Banjo Sandwich at 821 saying, "'Tis the season to be spooky." Ho 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 ho. I see what you did there. I see what you did there. All right, I've caught up with the chat. Actually, no, I didn't. I jumped ahead because of the super chat. Silly me. I thought I was ahead of the game. Forever Sci-Fi. Let's head back into the regular chat, though. At 801 said, "Monster House is a good movie." Okay. Good to know. Geek True 64 is a member saying, "I love Monster House. Top 10 favorite animated movies. A regular Halloween watch every season." Ooh, okay. Thank you. I'll definitely have to make sure that film gets added to the list. Let me make sure that I have it on there, because I was trying to get that film set up over the weekend, but I think there was an error in the processing. I have a radar sonar system set up, and I want to say there may have been an error in what I was able to find. But let me see. How's that look? That looks good to me. All right, there we go. That should be ready for the next weekend. Cool. I'll have it on my list. Shorty Short saying, "Kurt Russell will reenact the elevator scene from Big Trouble with anyone who is in an elevator with him." Nice. Oh, that's the kind of actor I love. Jenna Wingster, "Guys, I totally see Odin as Ekans." How dare you? How dare you? Hardwick, "A good introductory horror movie would be Something Wicked This Way Comes." 1983. Actually, I hadn't heard of that. Jeremy Sikowski, what's going on, brother? "My brother and I used to watch Bram Stoker's Dracula every Halloween night." Nice. Yeah, I mean, I could always go with the classic monsters, but as I said, I think that might be a little too scary for my youngest. My 5-year-old, he doesn't really get scared by much these days. I remember for a long time he was actually scared of... We have not watched The Incredibles yet with him, and it's because there is one sequence in like the very beginning where there are these robots, and there was just something about them that freaked him out. I think he might be okay with it now, but I remember like that was a big thing, and it kept us from watching the film. So no, so my go-to, all right, obviously I mentioned before about the nostalgic films, and we were able to watch a couple of them this weekend, but my go-to Halloween films are always Addams Family, 1990s live action, and Addams Family Values. I love those movies to death. Addams Family Values is my spirit animal. There's so many things in that film. Every year, there's always something new that we find. My wife and I wish we could watch both, but we do the trick-or-treating, and so typically we have enough time to watch one of them or most of one of them. And we usually go like back and forth between Values and the original. Obviously, we prefer Values because of Debbie. So good. That was one that my family was raised on. There's another one that I definitely want to show the kids at some point. It just may be a little too bizarre. It is Grinch Night. Dr. Seuss's Grinch Night, the animated film back from like the 60s. And it's creepy. There's a whole sequence. You go Raya, this is it. This is it. Grinch is gonna get ya. Grinch is gonna get ya. That whole sequence might be a little bit too trippy, a little bit too creepy for a 2-year-old, especially my 2-year-old. My 2-year-old has already shown she has a very gentle heart. She has a very genteel disposition. We like to say she's a Southern belle. That's the voice that we put on for her. It's like, how dare you, mother, how dare you think I would enjoy such drivel? Like, that's kind of the personality that we give to her, and that's kind of how she acts too. So, when she got scared of the weekend, she was like, monster. And we were like, oh, baby, we're sorry. We're going to turn this off right now. But anyway, Grinch Night might be like that next one that at the very least the 5-year-old gets to see. But, yeah. Short saying, oh, good. I thought you were going to say you hadn't seen Big Trouble. I have. It's just been a very long time. So I'm going to be honest. I don't remember everything from the film. Because I was not, I think when I watched it, I was not watching it with 100% focus. That might have actually even been one that we watched on like the Asgardian movie night, and that might be why I wasn't fully focused. I'll have to kind of go back. I'll have to go back into the archives. I'm actually curious about that. It's a slow night, so let me. I have some time. Let me do that. Let me look back into the archives and see if that was one of the films that we ended up watching. Oh boy, Tucker Carlson interviews. Oh my goodness. We'll not go there. We'll not go there. All right. Let me go into, let's see. I put movie in the title for the live streams. What will that do? Let's see. May not have been an AMM because the AMMs were all on another channel. Man, I used to do the Asgardian movie morning streams over the summer. I've also, it's like, oh, wait a minute, that's right. I have so many streams. Let's see. There's the Welcome to Asgard original streams. We've got a lot of the earlier episodes are like open forums. Streaming issues. Asgardian movie night. That's right. We did the Exorcist. Oh my gosh. 2018, guys. Who's been here since 2018? August of 2018, it was the first time I had ever seen The Exorcist because y'all made me watch it. All right, then we did Wizard of Oz, then we did Clue, then we did Three Amigos, then we did Aliens. Oh, we had some very, very good taste. Then we did The Addams Family. And again, we had some movie mornings too. We had The Shining. Oh, this is fun. Going back in time. We then did Psycho. We then did Predator. We did Tombstone. That was the first time ever watching Tombstone. That was November of 2018. Dang, I did too many streams back then, guys. I think that's why I got burnt out so quickly. We did Die Hard, Jingle All the Way. We did It's a Wonderful Life, of course. I just didn't even realize that I had done that many. EX Voot just dropped another super chat, bro. Thank you. Muppet Christmas Carol. Blues Brothers. Oh, The Eclectic Taste. 12 Angry Men. One of my all-time favorites. Flash Gordon. I remember that one. That was January of 2019. I think that was the first time I'd ever seen Flash Gordon. We then did Willow. There were 3 stream attempts there. I think we were having a lot of... That's right. We had so many technical issues for Willow. I forgot about that. That's why I just don't have any kind memories of that film in my heart. We did the South Park film, Ferris Bueller. Oh, man. Master and Commander. Let me see. Okay, now that I know what I'm looking for, let me see. Big Trouble. Nope. We never did that one. I'm fairly confident, though, that I have seen the film. Anyway. Oh, that was a fun trip down memory lane. All right, EX Voot. EX Voot. Thank you very much, X Voot, for a $20 super chat. Whoo, boy. Thank you. Always so generous. I really do appreciate you, man. You've been probably one of my most consistent donators on these streams, and so you're awesome, man. I appreciate it. So XVoot85 saying, appreciate the hard work you dedicate to the box office profit analysis. The past couple of years, you have ignited my curiosity into the financials of this industry. Can you do an end-of-the-year studio profit ranking? I will do my very best. And yeah, we did a stream last week. We went into the current rankings and early, again, not official, did not get to verify numbers, but early indications where only one studio so far this year is profitable, and major studios at least. And the only major studio profitable this year is Warner Brothers. It has nothing to do with Superman, by the way. Superman was actually a negative in its category, but because it had very strong box office profits from like the Minecraft movie, amongst others, it was able to offset a lot of its losses. So it's about $100+ million of profit for that studio. Every other studio is underwater. Every other major studio is in a financial loss territory, with Disney being the biggest loser with, as of right now, $1 billion worth of losses. But yes, I might try to see if I can do a more formal breakdown of the studios. Now that AI is a thing, by the way, because I'm always saying, look, AI, I think, can be a very good thing. It can be a very bad thing. In the AI art world, again, it just deprives us of humanity in so many ways. But as a research tool, as an analytical assistant, I think it can be used very well. So it's going to make my job a lot easier to do a studio breakdown because of AI, because then I can put all the movie titles from my chart in and say, please split these up by studio based off of the production studio, and then please do this, please do that, and I should be able to get some numbers. Now, again, obviously, I'm going to have to verify and double check before I put it into an official video or an official chart, but yeah, I can definitely look into that. AI allows for me to do a lot more in the future, to even like go back in time a little bit too. All right. Ooh, did I miss any comments from earlier? Oh, if so, I am very sorry. If so, I am very, very sorry. I'm going to go back. Let's see. Forever Sci-Fi 804 saying, the Ten Commandments 65th anniversary steelbook looks great. Order that and Blu-rays, and Blues Brothers 45th. Ooh, nice. Very good. Yeah, I've not been able to buy a lot of physical media recently, so this one just came in the other day. It's the Clue 4K steelbook. Love Clue, one of my favorite comedies of all time. Right now, there's still an active giveaway, though. I still need to choose a winner for this, the Batman 4-movie 4K collection. The one we'll do right after that, though, is going to be probably the 4K steelbook of Clue. I also have a 4K of the movie Flow, which is a fantastic animated film from about a year or two ago. Let's see. Justin C. First off, Kincaid and Rumsky. Ah, that's the stuff. Indeed, indeed. Justin C. The Variety article I read said the Polish actress who is pro-abortion is portraying the Blessed Mother, not Mary Magdalene. Oh, okay. Thank you for the correction. Causing backlash from far-right Catholic groups per the article. Okay, thank you very much for that clarification. Yeah, even worse then, right? Even worse. It'd be bad enough if Mary Magdalene was being portrayed by someone who's pro-abortion. The Blessed Mother? No, you can't have that. That's a non-negotiable. Yeah, it's not far-right. I'm sorry. That's just like a... That would be like them trying to argue, or them basically not admitting that, let's say, pick any of their big leaders from history and then take something so key and core to who they are as a people, as an identity, and then have the actor that portrays that person be the opposite. They wouldn't bring up any problems with that. Of course they would, right? But that's like their golden calf. So that's why they're going to be willing to label us far right, hate group. They're going to be willing to do everything they can to make anyone who says anything negative about that actress look like the worst thing ever imaginable. And yet they're the ones that are defending child murder. King Rumsky. Why would they re-release Back to the Future during Halloween? Why not Friday the 13th, Nightmare on Elm Street, etc.? I mean, they might be doing re-releases of those films, or at the very least, like smaller screenings of those films. Again, I don't know for sure on those, but for Back to the Future, my guess is that it's because that is the actual anniversary date. Let's see. Release of original Back to the Future. Let's see. No, actually, no. The first Back to the Future was released on July 3rd, 1985. So maybe it's because the 40th anniversary Blu-ray. It says, in celebration of the 40th anniversary, the film will be re-released theatrically for 1 week only, beginning October 31st. This release marks the first time the film will be presented in a premium large format screen, including IMAX, Dolby. Ooh, wait a minute. Back to the Future is being played. Okay. All right, I need to make a note, mental note. I have to look up Back to the Future showtimes, because if it's playing in IMAX this weekend, I am going to see Back to the Future in IMAX. I have not seen it on an IMAX screen yet. That would be a wonderful experience for me. So it sounds like it's just to be able to coincide with its physical media release, or maybe the pre. Yeah. So they have the 40th anniversary Blu-ray 4K sale, and so this is a promotional tactic. It looks like that makes sense, I guess. But yeah, agreed. Will Riker, I know you've been leaving some comments, man, but please put at Odin if you want me to actually like highlight them and read them. But I did see you said Chris Duckman's the traitor to all reviewers. Yeah, I mean, he sold himself out all to be able to make a movie. And again, he did it. Good for you, man. But what was it worth? Was it worth everything? Because I know he still has a lot of fans. I know that a lot of people have stuck with him. But I know there's also a lot of people like me that were like, oh, wait, this is the direction you're going in now? No, thank you. I wanted to hear your thoughts on movies. I didn't want you just to be shilling for film. Jonah Wingster talking about something else there. Let's see. Bruce says, Odin, I hate is anime tourists trying to change it. Oh, no. Is that what's going on? Lady Tharp saying, I'm still pretty new to anime. Started watching Attack on Titan and One Piece. Nice. I've heard good things. All right, Jonah Wingster, Odin is always behind and never early. How dare you? Ken Kareen is back. Hardwick, Something Wicked This Way Comes is based on a Ray Bradbury book. It's about a traveling carnival whose proprietor, Mr. Dark, Jonathan Pryce, can offer whatever you want for a price. Oh, interesting. Sounds like a classic. Geek True 64. The camp scene in Addams Family Values is top tier. I actually like Values more than the first. I mean, look, entertainment values all day. All day Values is funnier. But both of them are great. I would not... It's like, to me, comparing Godfather Part 1 and 2. They're both excellent movies. A lot of people prefer the second one even, but it's really hard for me to really say I prefer one over the other, or that I would not... Again, I could pick a favorite, but to me, they are just both so good, I could watch them both. Because the first one's got so many fun things in it. Second one also has a lot of fun things in it, too. Thanatos saying, 2 movies not to allow your kids to watch: Watership Down and Plague Dogs, Animals in Peril. Nope. No. Won't do that. John Wingster, I was here, though I didn't do any watch party streams. Oh. Shorty Short saying, sorry, the best movie night was Flash. That was the best. because that one I actually had so much fun with. That one I had so much fun with. By the way, shout out to Laura, who's always been so kind to the channel. I still got Hawkman up there. Let's see. No, he's right behind my head. Speaking of Back to the Future, there he is. Right in front of the flux capacitor. I think that's the 35th anniversary Blu-ray set for Back to the Future. Hawkman's right there. He used to sit on my microphone. Once I got a new microphone and updated that, he couldn't fit anymore. And so now he's up there. The wife set all that up for me because I'm terrible at designing anything. So shout out to her. Flash Gordon was great. It was so much fun. Let's see. Keegan Rumsky had to say, remember last week you said you did not watch Big Trouble in Little China, that you weren't an 80s movies expert. I loved it. Must watch in my opinion. Again, I'm actually confused myself now. I honestly can't remember. I honestly cannot remember. I mean, I thought I did, but maybe I didn't. Lady Tharp saying, I have never seen Tombstone or Big Trouble in Little China. Now, I know I've seen Tombstone. Not only do I have the verifiable record of the watch party, but I actually remember that one. Attention, duelist, says General Wingster. My hair has to be given frosted tips. My finger guns are leaving the chat. Have a good night. General Wingster, you have a good night as well. Sacre bleu, the deadly poke of Zorro. Sacre bleu, what's going on? Saying, hello, Odin. When Raul Julia breaks the fourth wall during the Mamushka, it kills me every time. Just his face alone is one of the funniest things in all of cinema. Died way too young. Love Raul Julia. No one has played Gomez Adams the same. And I know that you could argue some older version, like the TV show, for instance, fitting the cartoon a bit better, potentially. No one holds a candle to Raul Julia's performance. He was just such a talented actor. To me, one of the funniest moments is still like when Grandma says, President, and Lurch does his, no, take me. Oh, I love it. Raul Julia is so good. Mamushka, Mamushka. He stands the Mamushka. Oh, so good. Our Cossack cousins. Jimmy A. Having Mary played by a abortion actress would be like having a movie where Andrew Tate plays Gloria Steinem. That's one way to put it. Banjo Sandwich, 25/11/1985 is one of the dates he goes to. Yeah, so you mean like November 25th? That's not November. That's not October 31st. EX Voot, thank you for another $5 super chat. Saying, my opinion is that AI, unfortunately, will take a massive toll on our younger generations, intelligence, and creative thinking in a negative way. It already has, EX Food. And it's not just AI. Keep in mind, right? People are going to blame AI, but it's been social media. It's been instant access to information through Google on your phones. That has already taken its toll. AI is just going to make it worse in many ways, but it's already there. There was at the school... At the school, we have a system where there's like competitions amongst grade levels. There's like a house system kind of thing. And so this past session we had, it was to create a scary story one sentence at a time. And it was one of the saddest things to witness because they could not come up with just even basic sentences. They could only really do a couple words even here and there at a time. And even then, all they could do is think of what was just the most random thing and not what was the most cohesive or which made the most sense. That to me was like a very clear indication. I was like, oh yeah, this is clearly where the brain rot is setting in because they can't even for a second sit and think of a sentence. It was really bad. So bad. But, I agree. AI definitely is going to take a massive toll. It already has. But that toll, I think, has already been taken by kids being given cell phones, smartphones especially, way too early, all for the sake of, being a protective parent or being a cool parent. I think giving a smartphone to a middle schooler or an early high schooler, I think is one of the worst decisions that you can make. It's one thing if you're like, here's your first phone. All that it can do is call and do that old school, like you have to click it 3 times to get to a certain letter texting for emergencies only. That I kind of get, because if you're going out to friends or you're doing sports and stuff like that, like you need a ride. Okay, I understand having that for those kids do not need smartphones. Oh, but if they don't have a smartphone, they won't be able to be on social media. Good. They shouldn't be. Just for the record, that's the kind of parents that we are at this point, right? They're obviously way too young. We're not even close to that being a discussion. But I'm very much about, no, a first phone maybe when they're in high school, dumb phone only, emergency stuff only, and smartphone probably not until end of high school at the earliest. There's just no need for it. I want them to be able to do research. I want them to be able to think as critically as they can without having to rely on those things as crutches for as long as possible. Obviously, I can only have voted for so long. Obviously, if they go to a certain high school, they're going to have to possibly and probably have like a laptop, right? And they're going to have to rely on social media, or at the very least on like AI or Google search and things like that. But I think that if you at least take the glowing screen out of their hand from a very young age, I think that could be a very big factor that could help them. EXVoot is just dropping bombs still. EXVoot, lighting up the chat still. XVoot85, thank you for another $5 super chat. Saying here, that is scary. Hopefully something will change. Agreed, kids don't need a phone. Thank you for everything that you do. I appreciate you, man. Thank you. Let us see. Geek Truth 64. For Back to the Future, the 40th anniversary is celebrated this weekend because in the movie, the date of October 26, 1985 is the night he goes back in time. But that's not the 31st. So it would make more sense if it came out yesterday. Shorty Short, add Secret of Nim to the Don't Let Your Kids Watch list. Oh, wait, is that the one where they go off on like an adventure because their home gets poisoned, and at one point they're like in there and they see like the bodies of their family? Is that the one I'm thinking of? I think that's the one that I loved as a kid, because later on, eventually they create like a flying gliding machine, and I thought it was the coolest thing ever. But, oh man, yeah, don't worry. Not going to show that one. Banjo Sandwich. Big Trouble is free on Tubi. I also own it. I do own that one. So, Caveat Ties. Hail to you. Shorty Short. 80s kids had dark fantasy like Dark Crystal, cartoons about killer bunnies. No wonder Gen X is so damaged. That's a fair point. Jimmy A. Even memes have become pure brain rot. Why does anyone think 67 is again? It's the dumbest thing ever. My kids try to have me 6'7", 6'7", and only one time this year have I been actually like tricked, where we were actually going through scripture. We were reading the Gospel of Matthew, and I had one of the students trick me into saying like Matthew 6'7". And so it was like, 6'7", 6'7". It's just like, it's the dumbest thing ever. Honestly, it's like anything else, right? Like there's always memes. There's always catchphrases. There's always, every generation has them too, right? This is not unique to the modern generation. It's just, honestly, it's overdone. That's the issue really with it, right? It's overdone. And that's why, for me, it's not funny. If it was something where it like happened every now and then, maybe. But because it's like constant, literally their entire life and existence is focused on this. We were on a retreat last week, and someone was quoting from scripture, and all they had to do was say like Ezekiel 6, and immediately you could hear the under talk, and you could see their faces light up, and they look at each other, and you could see them all being like, even though they didn't even say that. That's why to me it's not funny. It's one thing if they say it and then that's when you respond. To me, it's like, it's no different than the Pee Wee Herman word of the day. Today, our word of the day is Earth. You know what to do every time someone says a secret word, right? Scream real loud. Like that. Okay. That reminds me of that. Okay. And that was funny because like anytime that word was said, that's what you reacted to. If someone actually were to say 6, 7, and then you respond to that, okay. But when it's like, no, we're going to respond if even just even if the number 6 is mentioned or if the number 7 is mentioned, it's like, okay, that just doesn't make it funny anymore. At that point, it's just annoying. But agreed, it's so stupid, Jimmy. King and Rumsky, no phones for kids under until age 18 or on their own. Yeah, no smartphones. Again, I understand having a dumb phone, especially if your kid is starting to drive on their own. That makes sense to me. But it's like only emergency calls, only emergency text. Thanato is saying the 2 best classes I had in high school was typing and library sciences. Show me how to look stuff up. Yeah, dude. I remember having to do research papers even in grad school. And we obviously had internet. We obviously had Google, but there was no AI. And we had to, in many cases, had to use the library. Like part of the assignment was to actually utilize the library and print out resources and use those. Gary Banner Sandwich, the future is doomed in many ways. Yeah. Abomination, hail to you, good sir. Thank you for being here. Zine Waters, what's up, Zine? Thank you for the tag, saying regarding kids with smartphones, have you experienced the Gen Z Alpha stare yet, where they just blank on you when you ask something from them? Just got it today when I told a kid to put their phone away. Yeah, we are lucky enough to where we have at least again, I have been pushing for us to be a no phone school for a long time. It's above my pay grade. I have no control over it, but at the very least, during class time, they cannot have it. They have to put it in a phone pocket. In my class, I make them turn it off completely. And I literally, every class, it's in the pockets. I have them all face the right way. I tap the screen, go right through. And if the screen turns on, first time, I turn it off for you. Second time, I keep it for the day. Third time, it goes to the office. No other teachers, I think, do that. I think they should, because it guarantees you that the phones will not interrupt the class. And also, there's just an extra level there of it being separated from the kids. As I've been explaining to the kids and also to some teachers as well, what phones are today are giant pacifiers. We are pacifying our kids for way too long. The phone has become just a giant pacifier. It's no different than when people don't want a parent and they know that it's time that their kid needs to learn how to cry it out and not have a pacifier in their crib anymore, and they continue to give it to them for the rest of their life, and they're now 4 or 5 years old, they still have a pacifier. Again, that is what is being done for kids with phones. Oh, you're crying? Here's a screen. Oh, you're upset? I don't want to deal with that. Here's a tablet. Now, don't get me wrong, we use tablets, but we only use them on road trips. When we're going in the car for a long extended period of time, we have tablets ready. But that's a very specific circumstance, right? Where they're literally contained in a vehicle for an extended period of time. And even then, right, there's people who could probably easily make that work without it. That's just what works for us. But, we're not perfect either. But there are some where it's like, oh my gosh, even some family where it's like, why are you keep on doing this? It's so bad for them. All right, Abomination. Odin, I think you're talking about Once Upon a Forest with the poison stuff. Okay, maybe that's what I was thinking of. Abomination, I blame Austin Powers Gold member because 6s and 7s translates to crazy. It's 6s and 7s. But also, I see, you think of that, I think of A Knight's Tale. When he has to get Geoffrey Chaucer his clothes back. And all of a sudden, it's 6s and 7s tonight. Feel lucky. Like, that is where I got it from. Caveat Tie is, want a Hertz donut? What? Yikes, Voot. Thanks again. By the way, thank you again for that. For another $5 super chat. So many super chats tonight. Thanks again. By the way, the best Big Trouble movie was the Tim Allen comedy. Check that one out. Have a great evening. Thank you, man. Geek Truth, I guess they didn't want to release Back to the Future on a Sunday. Don't know why they waited an extra week. For the 30th anniversary, they released a double feature of 1 and 2 in theaters. Yeah, I feel like they've done it on the actual day itself. Jimmy A, on a side note, I just tricked you into saying 6-7, LOL. Yes, you did. Yes, you did. But you didn't really trick me because I knew exactly what you were talking about, and I was making fun of it. So, but I appreciate you still. Zion Waters, we are no phone school during class. They can have it between classes. It's why I told her to put it away. Yet we too, but we don't let them hold on to it. They have to have it in the phone pocket. If it's not in the phone pocket, no good. No dice. Stonewolf 2077, welcome. Pacifiers versus Coco Melon, says Abomination. Sacramento, The Secret of Nim was different movie. Okay, gotcha. It was Don Bluth's first full-length film and easily his masterpiece. However, I would have not suggested it for a child younger than 7. Okay, got you. These silly English and their made-up language that'll never catch on. Abomination looks like they've had the last laugh. All right, speaking of last laugh, let's just go ahead and end things with a little fun facts about Halloween, because it is one of the most misunderstood holidays, one of the misunderstood times of year. One of the things that always drives me nuts is how there are so many people out there that still perpetuate lies, right? You've probably heard this lie before, right? About how, Halloween, it was just the early Christians trying to baptize a Gaelic harvest festival on Samhain. The problem is that there's actually no evidence of that very thing, and Halloween, as we understand it in the most traditional sense, is not just Christian, but it's actually very clearly a Catholic holiday. It's a day in which we commemorate the dead. We remember those who have died. We pray for our loved ones that have died. Just a little bit of information here. Neo-pagan websites claim that Halloween was an attempt by early Christians to baptize the Gaelic harvest festival of Samhain. Because of this persistent idea, some Christians are hesitant to participate associating with Halloween. Brad Winstead of Christian Broadcasting explains, even a cursory look at the origins of Halloween will reveal satanic rituals played out in trick and treating, jack-o'-lanterns, witches, ghosts, and the dead, and on and on. If you've ever taken time to research any of these Halloween practices, you'll see satanic background from the Celtic tribe of Scotland. Oh boy, so crazy. But like many other claims that Catholicism adopted pagan practices and beliefs, this myth is also based on bad research and propaganda that developed after the Protestant Reformation. I like to call it the Protestant Revolt. Given the contempt of the Reformers for the Catholic doctrine of purgatory and prayers for the dead, this development is not surprising. The desire of Christians to distance themselves from anything pagan can be seen in documents dating all the way back to the New Testament. It should not come as a surprise that even in our own time, Christians are cautious to adopt elements of pagan ritual. But do we need to throw the baby out with the bathwater? From nearly the beginning of Christianity, it has been customary practice to solemnize the anniversary of a martyr's death. This was normally done at the church nearest the place where the martyr occurred. By the 4th century, neighboring churches had begun to celebrate common feast. According to the original Catholic Encyclopedia, Pope Gregory III consecrated a chapel in the Basilica of St. Peter to all the saints and fixed the anniversary for the 1st of November. Again, that's in the 700s, that All Saints' Day, as at least an early understanding of it, had been established. Although this date had become significant for the Christians in the West, it was not yet a universally recognized feast. 60 years later, Pope Gregory IV commanded that All Saints be observed everywhere annually on the 1st day of November. So again, within the first millennia, All Saints' Day is established. Evening vigils on the day before a feast or solemnity are customary in the Catholic faith, and so Halloween falls on October 31st, because it is the vigil before All Saints' Day, and not because the church wanted to, quote, baptize Samhain or any other pagan celebration. So it's called All Hallows Eve because what does it mean to be hallowed? It means to be a saint. It is literally the day before All Saints' Day, meaning it is the vigil of All Saints. So Halloween, as we call it, is just All Hallows Eve. It's the vigil of All Saints. Samhain was a festival that marked the beginning of winter in Ireland, but the historical evidence does not support the idea that it involved jack-o'-lanterns, witches, ghosts, or religious ceremonies. In his book, Stations of the Sun, historian Ronald Hutton explains, the medieval records furnish no evidence that 1st November was a major pan-Celtic festival, and none of religious ceremonies, even where it was observed. There are some folk tales where humans have dealings with deities or monsters that end or begin on Samhain, but as Hutton concludes, their point cannot be proved from the tales themselves. It could just be that several narratives are started, set, or concluded at this feast because it represented an ideal context, being a major gathering of royalty and warriors with the time on their hands. Virtually all the customs associated with the modern secular celebrations of Halloween developed only in the past 500 years and have very few, if any, connections to ancient pagan religious practices. So what are Catholics to do? Although it is true that most of the customs practiced on Halloween here in the United States cannot be traced back to ancient pagan religions, this does not mean that some of them are not problematic. I would never have been comfortable with my daughter dressing up as a devil or a witch for Halloween, but I've never had a problem allowing her to go trick-or-treating with her friends. Most of the time, she wanted to dress as her favorite movie or cartoon character. I use the opportunity every year to tell her about the Catholic origins of Halloween. My good friend, Father Amaro Samel, used to open a parish hall for Halloween night, invite children and their parents to come dress as their favorite saints. I understand this is popular in parishes throughout the country, and I think this is great. Great article from 1 Peter 5, Make Halloween Great Again. Part of the problem is that the Halloween, quote, is pagan and evil crowd tend to put too much stock into the erroneous history peddled by neo-pagans. It is based upon the notion, first advanced by Margaret Murray in the 1920s, building on Fraser's Golden Bow, that the witches of medieval and early modern Europe were not in fact followers of Satan, as asserted by Christians, but practitioners of an ancient old pre-Christian faith that was subsequently persecuted by the church and driven underground. When 2 decades later, attempts were made to recreate the rituals of this supposed religion, efforts were made to re-paganize Halloween and other Christian festivals. Given that many of those involved were talented writers and that the media and academia were growing slowly but increasingly anti-Christian, said efforts were injected into the popular consciousness. It is extremely important to remember that Halloween was and is far from the only victim of this campaign. The same was done also for Christmas. So again, anytime you hear people say, oh, Christmas is just this or that, it's usually based off of lies and misinformation. He also had another great article on 1 Peter 5 is Halloween versus the world. It's just to remind ourselves that, hey, the reason why we practice Halloween, the reason why Halloween is a thing at all is because it was a day to remember the dead. It was a day to pray for those that we had lost. Also, forgotten customs, right? In 1955, we had some changes happen to the church, but here's something else that's important, okay? So, as you can see, known in some places as All Hallowtide, the Vigil of All Saints, Halloween, All Saints and All Souls Day form a sort of triduum, where All Saints is still a holy day of obligation. The church's traditions and customs have enriched all of these 3 days with unique and time-honored customs that we need to restore in our world. So this could be things like fasting, for instance, on Halloween. Again, this is where Catholics would be coming at it from. The world obviously teaches what? Excess. Kind of makes sense then that we're seeing the pushes in the directions that we are going with. Uncertainty existed on whether or not the fasting was still required on October 31st. Previously been for centuries a day of fasting and absence, but obviously a lot of that did change in the midst of the 50s and into the 70s especially. Something that we could obviously strive to do. There's also a custom of distributing sacramentals on Halloween. The Vigil of All Saints Day is to be rescued from the pagan-inspired customs of our world today and restored to what it is. Part of our responsibility as Catholics is to spread the faith to a world that has turned away from its Christian roots to embrace idolatry of paganism, modernism, liberalism, communism, socialism, hedonism, and materialism. So obviously giving out St. Benedict medals, but also with candy as well, right? You can have a bit of both as well. And anyway, great articles are out there. One of the most important things, though, is the lie being put out there, right? That somehow Halloween was the Catholic Church's attempt to try to Christianize paganism in any way. It's actually not based in reality. The whole concept of trick-or-treating and dressing up, those are all things that were rooted in Catholic practice. So don't believe the world. The world will try to spin you all over the place. And it's nuts. All right. Anyway, Zion Waters. Oh, they do this. Yeah, they do it with Easter. They do it with every major holiday. Every major holiday. It's crazy. Nation, there were a bunch of things that spelled Halloween as Halloween, and I had to learn that it was short for Hallowheaven or All Hallows Eve. Yep. All I want to know is, are the saints appreciative of the French maid and the bunny costumes? Absolutely not, right? And that's why I think it is important for us to remind ourselves that we should not run away from the world. We should not cede the territory to those that wish to abuse the gifts that we are given. But we also want to make sure that we are teaching them correctly. So, for instance, us dressing up like Team Rocket, that's fun. That's a good use of it. I always make it a point whenever Halloween comes up in our discussions that I always describe it as All Hallows Eve, for instance. And I want to have that association with that date as well. It's just like when we commemorate Christmas or the Feast of St. Nicholas, for instance. right? Whenever we talk about Santa Claus, I always say, yes, Saint Nicholas, because I think it's important for us to not try to just damper everything by saying like, oh, we're just going to poo-poo on everything, right? But we also need to be honest, right? We also need to be honest and need to be straightforward as well. Wow Nation, you mean they absolutely are right? That was a slip of the tongue, right? Cry emoji. God, goodness me. All right, anyway. That's all I have for tonight, everybody. Went a little bit over. I was actually planning on ending a little earlier tonight, but thank you all for showing up. Xvoot was a madman tonight. Thank you so very much for all of those donations. Just again, crazy generosity. About $40 worth of super chats, man. I appreciate you. You're awesome. For everyone else that was here, thank y'all for engaging in our discussions and having a good time. Hopefully you had fun. I had a lot of fun. And anyway, Halloween. It is a Christian holiday. So don't forget that. Don't let the culture tell us otherwise. You can still enjoy candy. You can still enjoy sweets. Maybe take it as an opportunity, especially since it's on a Friday this year. Maybe take it as an opportunity to maybe have a small sacrifice, not of things, right, but of giving up things. It's a good day, Friday, to give up things as a good spiritual practice, right? Fasting is something that, Christ calls us to, but also just to maybe take the time to look into the actual history of Halloween, of All Saints Day, and just to see how many things have been attempted to be taken by the modern secular culture and by the neo-paganist world especially, and to remind ourselves that we can celebrate Halloween, but we also have to do it right. We should not join the world. We are not of the world, but we are in the world. We need to find that balance. And so thank y'all very much. Will Riker, thank you for being here. Caveat Ties, thanks for being here. Forever Sci-Fi, have a good night and God bless to you. Shorty Short, thank you again for being here. Glad to have you back. Happy Halloween, Forever Sci-Fi to you. Justin C., thanks for being here. Jimmy A., thanks for being here. Lady Tharp, please pray for my family. We just found out recently that my mom has cancer. Her name is Terry. Absolutely, we'll pray for Terry, for healing in her life, for your family as they go through this time. I know it's a difficult thing to go through. I mentioned it probably before at some point in my time that I lost a good friend to cancer when I was only 18. He was only 18. So I know what it's like to lose someone close. Obviously not that close, but still. Anyone who's seen anyone they love go through that knows what that's like and just what kind of impact that can have. So definitely praying for Terry and for you and for your family and for everyone else as well. Again, there's a lot of people that oftentimes have a lot of petitions and prayers. And so we obviously, great time for us to pray. Great time, a holy trio of days, right? All Hallows Eve is our preparation for the Feast of All Saints. All Saints, our time to ask for the intercession of those closest to God in heaven. That's what a saint is. So we, just like we ask others to pray for us, we ask for them to pray for us as well. And then All Souls Day on Sunday, which is when we pray for the holy souls of purgatory, right? First Maccabees, the book of Maccabees speaks to the fact that the Jews would pray for the dead. Why would you pray for those that can do nothing unless they can, amongst many other parts that we look to. So we, again, spend these 3 days to pray and to unite ourselves in our prayers to God. So again, Lady Tharp, praying for you. Thank you to everyone watching. Please make sure to smash the like button, light up that Rumble button as well. You guys are all amazing and beautiful people. Wonderful rest of your day. Will not be on Friday Night Lights this week because I'll be trick-or-treating with the kids, doing my family duties. So happy Halloween, blessed All Saints Day, and a blessed All Souls Day. We'll still have the box office preview on Friday and breakdown on Sunday. I love you guys. Have a wonderful rest of your evening, and as always, God bless. And now let me give a shout out to all of my Chosen of Valhalla members, starting off first with my Patreon members, Father Luca Illich, Hail to you, Father. And also to Miss Maughton Muses. Check out her YouTube channel by the same name, Miss Maughton Muses. She is very lovely, great, awesome Catholic faith-based content over there. You'll also find over on Subscribestar my member Matt317. He is on Twitch with the same channel name, Matt317. Shout out to you, good sir. And also to a longtime member here, Mr. Roy, my Chosen of Valhalla member here on YouTube. Mr. Roy, thank you for always hanging out and for always being a part of this channel. It does mean a lot, as well as it does for all of my Chosen of Valhalla members. And if you want your name shouted out at the end of every live stream or video, or if you want it listed in that list that was playing just before, just now, check out the top link in the video description below. You'll find out how to get those types of shout outs at the end of every live stream and video. Not to mention, you get access to bonus video content and also access to a Discord server where there are a couple of channels on there where I do giveaways every single month. In fact, I do multiple giveaways every single month. I try to make it so that I'm giving away Blu-rays and 4Ks that make up at least 4 or 5 different giveaways. Sometimes I have to put them in all towards the very end because back in the school session, of course, now means that I'm going to be a little bit more delayed there. So if you want access to things like that, if you want access to a great community, you guys seriously are all amazing and beautiful. Have a wonderful rest of your day. And as always, God bless.